He called me his temporary distraction when he thought I couldn't hear. I was just another conquest for this millionaire playboy, until Amara walked into his life, the woman who made him feel something real, the woman who cost him everything, including me. Hey there, I'm Bianca, just a girl with a sewing machine and big dreams who somehow got swept into the glittering world of New York's elite. Before I tell you how I became entangled with one of New York's most notorious millionaires, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. My story might save you from the same heartbreak I endured. 2 years ago, I was just a 27-year-old fashion design graduate sharing a cramped Brooklyn apartment with 3 roommates, sketching designs between shifts at a high-end boutique in Soho. My days were a blur of hemming dresses for women who spent more on lunch than I made in a week, while my nights were dedicated to building my portfolio, one stitch at a time. I was nobody special, just another dreamer in a city full of them. That all changed the night I was asked to help dress models for a charity gala at the Plaza. The kind of event where champagne flows like water and everyone's last name is either in a history book or on a building. I never imagined I'd catch the eye of Jordan Hayes, the man whose smile was as dangerous as his bank account was deep, the man who would play with my heart like it was just another acquisition in his portfolio of conquests. I still remember the weight of Jordan's gaze from across that glittering ballroom. I was adjusting a model's gown when I felt someone watching me. Looking up, I locked eyes with the most devastatingly handsome man I'd ever seen. His tuxedo probably cost more than my yearly rent, but it was his confidence that made everyone else in the room fade into background noise. "You're too beautiful to be hiding backstage," he said when he approached me later, his voice like smooth bourbon. I blushed, stammered something about just doing my job. He laughed, a sound that made my heart skip, and handed me his card. "Jordan Hayes. Call me when you're ready to step into the spotlight where you belong." My roommates screamed when I showed them his card. The Jordan Hayes, the real estate mogul? Bianca, he's worth billions. They practically forced me to call him, and just like that, I was swept into his world. Our first date, a helicopter ride to his Hamptons estate for a private dinner prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. The second, front row at Fashion Week, where he introduced me to designers I'd studied in school. Each gift more extravagant than the last, a Chanel bag, diamond earrings, eventually a key to his penthouse. "So you can wait for me there," he whispered, kissing my neck in a way that made me forget all logic. My friends grew concerned. "He's known for cycling through women," my best friend warned. But I was already addicted to the way he looked at me, to feeling special, chosen. I ignored the red flags, how he never introduced me to his business associates, how our relationship existed primarily behind closed doors, how he'd sometimes go cold without explanation. Then came that night at his friend's yacht party. I was looking for the bathroom when I overheard Jordan's voice through a cracked door. "Bianca? She's just a temporary distraction, pretty enough to keep around until something better comes along." Laughter followed, male voices agreeing. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces right there on that polished yacht floor. When I confronted him later, tears streaming down my face, he cupped my cheeks and looked at me with such convincing regret. "They don't understand what we have," he said. "I have to say these things in business circles. Image is everything. You know what's real." And God help me, I believed him. I stayed, telling myself I was special enough to change him. Life with Jordan settled into a deceptive kind of normal. I had almost convinced myself that what we had was real when Amara Bennett walked into his life like a force of nature. I first saw her at a tech innovation gala Jordan had reluctantly brought me to. She commanded attention without seeking it. Tall, radiant, with flawless dark skin and a brilliant mind that had everyone hanging on her every word, Jordan included. "She's revolutionizing financial security algorithms," he explained later, his eyes lighting up in a way they never did when discussing my designs. Her company just closed a $50 million funding round. The admiration in his voice made my stomach twist. I watched something shift in him that night. The way he leaned forward when she spoke, how his laugh became more genuine around her. For the first time, I saw Jordan Hayes, the man who could buy anything, wanting something he couldn't immediately possess. Our relationship began changing in subtle ways. Dinner dates cancelled due to emergency meetings. Texts left unanswered for hours. His mind elsewhere when we were together. I found myself dressing more carefully, speaking more intelligently, desperately trying to hold his waning attention. Then I saw them together at a restaurant I couldn't afford, his hand lingering on hers across the table. He hadn't even bothered going somewhere we wouldn't be seen. The next day, he sent roses to my apartment with a note claiming it was a business dinner. I pretended to believe him. I started following Amara on social media, torturing myself with glimpses of her life. Harvard-educated, self-made millionaire by 30, philanthropist. Everything about her screamed substance, while I felt increasingly like an accessory Jordan was outgrowing. The worst part? Amara seemed genuinely kind. In interviews, she spoke about lifting other women up, about integrity in business. She had no idea she was falling for a man who collected hearts like trophies. One night, after Jordan had cancelled our plans again, I found myself parked outside a downtown restaurant, watching through the window as he gave Amara the exact same look he once gave me. Only this time, there was something different in his eyes, something authentic. Fear gripped me as I realized Jordan Hayes wasn't just playing with Amara, he was falling for her. And for the first time in his charmed life, the player was getting played by his own heart. The revelation came on a rainy Tuesday. I'd let myself into Jordan's penthouse, planning to surprise him. Instead, I found myself alone, with access to his carelessly unlocked laptop. I'd never snooped before. Trust was the beautiful lie I clung to. But something pushed me to click on a folder labeled A B Ventures. What I found made me sick. Detailed plans to gain Amara's trust, to access her revolutionary encryption technology, to replicate it for his own financial gain. Documents revealing Jordan's empire wasn't built on brilliant investments, but on elaborate fraud schemes and exploiting vulnerable people. Screen after screen of evidence that the man I loved was a predator in bespoke suits. My phone buzzed with a text from him. Working late with investors. Don't wait up. I knew exactly which investor he was with. That night, I hardly slept. By morning, I'd made a decision that terrified me. I found Amara's business contact through her company website and requested a meeting. Regarding Jordan Hayes, was all I wrote. She responded within an hour. We met at a quiet cafe in Brooklyn, far from Jordan's usual haunts. She was even more impressive up close. Intelligent eyes that missed nothing, voice steady as steel. You're his girlfriend, she stated simply when I sat down. One of them, apparently, I replied, watching her composed expression falter slightly. He's been pursuing me for weeks. I've been considering his proposal. Her hands tightened around her coffee cup. Business and personal. There's something you need to know about both, I said, sliding a USB drive across the table. Everything on here is true. I can prove it all. For 2 hours we talked, two women from different worlds, connected by the same man's deception. I expected anger, even blame. Instead, Amara listened with growing concern, asking precise questions that revealed her brilliant analytical mind. He's targeting your encryption technology, I explained, but that's just the beginning. His whole empire is built on sand. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but resolute. Thank you for your courage, Bianca. Few would have done what you're doing. I'm not doing it for virtue, I admitted. Part of me wants revenge. Amara's smile was both sad and determined. Revenge is short-sighted. Justice, however, is another matter entirely. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I think we have work to do. As we parted ways, I realized something startling. I'd just found an unexpected ally in the woman who'd replaced me. And together, we were about to change the game Jordan had been playing his entire life. The following weeks became an elaborate chess match. Amara, strategic and methodical, continued seeing Jordan while secretly investigating him. Her team of experts traced money trails and uncovered offshore accounts, while I provided access and insider knowledge. Passwords scribbled on sticky notes, meetings I'd overheard, names of associates who seemed nervous around him. "He genuinely likes you," I told Amara during one of our clandestine meetings in her downtown office. "I've never seen him this way." "I know," she replied, expression complicated. "That's what makes this difficult and effective." Jordan was changing too. He started talking about going legitimate, about legacy projects instead of quick profits. He mentioned charitable foundations, sustainable developments. Once, he even called me late, slightly drunk, confessing he'd been living wrong. I hung up, heart pounding, refusing to believe he could transform just because he'd finally found someone worthy of his honesty. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jordan Hayes was finally falling in love, genuinely and completely, with the woman who would be his undoing. The collapse came swiftly. Amara's team worked with financial authorities, building an airtight case. I provided testimony about conversations I'd witnessed, documents I'd seen. On a crisp fall morning, while Jordan was in a meeting pitching Amara's company on a partnership, federal agents entered his office building. I watched from across the street as they escorted him out, the mighty Jordan Hayes, suddenly looking small in handcuffs. Our eyes met briefly as they guided him toward the waiting car. Confusion, then dawning comprehension crossed his face as he spotted Amara standing beside me. The betrayal in his eyes almost broke me, not because he didn't deserve it, but because for perhaps the first time in his life, his pain was authentic. That evening, it was everywhere. Jordan's arrest, the charges of investment fraud, tax evasion, and attempted corporate espionage. His carefully constructed empire crumbled overnight as investors fled and associates scrambled to distance themselves. The man who owned New York suddenly owned nothing but the truth of his crimes. "Do you regret it?" Amara asked me later as we sat in her loft, watching the news coverage. I considered the question carefully. "I regret loving someone who wasn't real. I regret the years wasted. But this?" I gestured to the screen where Jordan's empire was being dismantled piece by piece. "This is what happens when you treat people like games." What neither of us said aloud was the tragic poetry of it all. Jordan had finally found something real, something that might have redeemed him, and that very thing had become the catalyst for losing everything. The player had finally fallen in love, just in time to watch it all slip away. A year passed like a fever breaking. Spring came again to New York, but everything had changed. With Amara's belief in my talent and a modest investment from her venture fund, I launched my sustainable fashion line. Designs I'd sketched late at night while trying to be worthy of a man who never deserved me. The irony wasn't lost on me that my success bloomed from the ashes of his downfall. My first small collection sold out in days. Designs that understand a woman's journey, the fashion blogs wrote. If they only knew how much journey had gone into each stitch. Meanwhile, Jordan pled guilty to reduced charges in exchange for helping authorities unravel larger schemes. 10 years, the sentence read. A decade for a man who once couldn't wait 10 minutes for anything he wanted. "You have a visitor," the corrections officer announced 6 months into his sentence. I hadn't planned to go, hadn't wanted to see him diminished. But some questions need answers, and some chapters need proper endings. He looked older, humbled in his standard issue uniform, yet somehow more human than he'd ever appeared in his designer suits. We sat across from each other, the table between us like the great divide of our past. "Why did you come?" he asked, voice hoarse. "To understand if any of it was real," I answered honestly. His eyes, those eyes that once made me forget my own name, filled with something that looked remarkably like regret. It became real. Too late, but it did. He looked down at his hands. With her, and maybe even with you toward the end. You never loved me, Jordan. I didn't know how to love anyone, including myself. He met my gaze. I'm learning now. There's not much else to do in here but face yourself. I didn't offer forgiveness. He didn't ask for it. Some debts can't be repaid with words. As for Amara and me, we formed an unexpected friendship. Two women who'd seen different sides of the same deception and chosen truth, however painful. She continued revolutionizing financial security while mentoring female entrepreneurs. I designed clothes that made women feel both powerful and authentic. Sometimes we laughed about how Jordan, in his manipulative genius, had inadvertently connected two women who might never have met otherwise. He thought we were conquests in his game, Amara said once over dinner. He never realized we were players in our own right. On my 30th birthday, I received a package from prison. Inside was a handmade card and a beautifully detailed sketch of a dress design. Not bad for a former millionaire with no previous artistic talent. The note simply read, "I'm trying to create now, not just possess. Thank you for being part of my wake-up call. Jay." I didn't respond, but I kept it, not as a memento of love, but as a reminder that even the most broken stories can contain seeds of transformation. 2 years after Jordan's fall, I stood backstage at New York Fashion Week, watching models showcase my latest collection. Front row sat Amara, now a successful tech CEO, and my closest friend, beaming with pride. My journey from the shadows to the spotlight hadn't followed the path I'd once imagined, but it was authentically mine. The headlines about Jordan eventually faded. He continued his prison sentence, teaching business ethics to fellow inmates, a twist no one saw coming. His letters, which arrived every few months, showed a man slowly reassembling himself into someone with purpose beyond acquisition. Looking back, I don't regret the storm that nearly drowned me. It washed away the girl who thought love meant sacrifice and revealed a woman who understood her worth couldn't be determined by anyone else's validation. My story isn't just about heartbreak, it's about finding your worth even when others try to diminish it. About women supporting women when society expects competition. About the possibility that even those who harm us might someday find redemption, though never at the expense of our peace. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment about your own experience with people who tried to play games with your heart. Remember, we aren't pawns in someone else's game unless we agree to play by their rules. Retry Cloud can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.